custody. 2 for sure suspects. Earlier in the day, we asked the police chief about rumors on social media, people saying that it was Chief's vans who helped detain one of the suspects. We're told that one of the people from that video that's circulating is in custody, so it's not clear if they're necessarily a suspect or if they're that person who helped police. But just a tragic day out here today, you know, hearing that this did involve children. We want to correct that. Earlier today, the Chief Graves said she did not think that children were hurt. We know now that Children's Mercy does have several gunshot wounds, and those are children. I wish that I could give you at home more details. I wish we had more details. I wish we knew their ages, all of the conditions, you know, if they were reunited with their parents. That's one of the things we asked the chief about. We know that Children's Mercy has been vocal on social media, letting families know, if you don't know where your children are, give us a call, which leads us to believe that maybe there are some kids there who do not have families with them. The police chief says that you can call Children's Mercy or you can call her, but that she has not heard from any families at this time. Cam, Dia.
All right, Jessica, thank you so much for that. We got a statement from Kansas Representative Sharice Davids saying that words cannot describe the pain and shock we're feeling as a joyous day turned into tragedy right in our community. My heart is with the victims' families, and I pray for the quick recovery of those injured. I appreciate the bravery and coordination of the law enforcement officers, first responders, and healthcare workers for ensuring a swift, orderly evacuation and caring for the victims. Though our community stands together in the present, the traumatic memories of today will stick with children, families, and community members for far too long. This does not reflect the spirit of Kansas City, and I support those asking for a change to ensure a brighter and safer future.
Just one of many statements we're receiving from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle here. And I think what she said at the end there, this is something that's going to stay with us, but we're also going to heal from this together. You know,
this is something that we have to consider what you don't see, right? There's so many medical professionals, doctors, EMTs, nurses who were called in to work. There was a mass all call because they needed help to treat these people.
Absolutely.
Who were unfortunately and just tragically injured at a celebratory occasion.
And just minutes ago, we heard from University Health saying that they are a level 1 trauma center. They train for days like today, and they implemented what's called their mass casualty protocol. Again, 8 shooting victims that went to University Health today who were gunshot victims.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get to some of the interviews that we got moments after this happened and during our coverage the last few hours.
And I wasn't sure if it was like explosions from like cannons or like fireworks or whatever, but I mean, no one was really reacting, but I thought I heard something, and then we heard that shots were fired through the police radio, so then it kind of got real. It's just crazy that this is what the world's come to.
This is not Kansas City. This isn't Kansas City. We don't do this.
It's just sad to see it.
And I just mentioned to her, look at all the nationalities, and everybody gets along over football. Spoke to you soon.
Man, I mean, it was so loud and the energy was so high and there was so much joy, and now there's uncertainty and there's quiet and there's tough conversations with families at home. And you know, Mick, I know you were out there, and I think about the parades I've covered in the past. It's all joy. And you're so happy to see people experiencing this with their families. You know, we talk about, especially when it comes to the Chiefs, these are the good old days happening right now. And you wonder how people are going to remember this day.
And well, it was all joy, right? From the moment the parade started, even before that, the hours before that, we were on there at 4:30 this morning starting our coverage, and it was joy all the way through until about whatever 1:30 when it came to an end, and almost immediately that's when the shootings happened. I've been communicating with somebody I know who was inside Union Station with his wife afterwards. So to kind of set the stage here, the Chiefs have a lot of business partners, right? And so a lot of times those businesses and their employees, they are there in the seats right in front of the stage, having access to Union Station as a perk for being partners with the Chiefs. We had salespeople in there and whatnot. This person said he was inside Union Station, and all of a sudden, this is right after the pep rally, right after the stage presentation, all of a sudden people near the escalators started running and screaming. We've seen a lot of that video of people running out of Union Station. He said officers were running toward the escalators. He said he heard active shooter. When he ran, then they ran toward Pierpont's, and ended up in a stairwell with Legarius Sneed and some other Chiefs families. They made their way to a room above Pierpont where they were sheltered in place with the Andy Reid family and a number of Chiefs front office staff. He also wanted to emphasize the police and first responders were amazing. Can't say enough about them. Said there were lots of kids crying and scared, as you can imagine. But he said it was so loud. He said he can't say that he heard gunshots, but others inside said they heard them. Of course, we saw the police chief say there were no gunshots inside Union Station, but at the same time, this is a very active investigation. A lot of moving parts.
You know, it's important to tell you guys, we were supposed to be broadcasting still down there at Union Station.
Yeah, we had another 10 or 15 minutes. We're going to take a few more breaks and all that, yeah.
And then bring you those best moments.
And then, of course, do our broadcasts at 4 and at 5 and at 6 and celebrate and just really salute the champs. And this just feels like such a damper. And not only for us, but for the players on the team as well. You know, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes posted that he's praying for Kansas City, you know, in a moment where they should be on top of the world.
Well, this is a huge event, right? It's up there with the Super Bowl. It's something you get to do after you win a Super Bowl, and there's a lot more people involved with this than there are at a Super Bowl. You have 70,000 or 80,000 at the game. You have 500,000 at something like this, and you have to wonder, how's that going to change things moving forward with parades, with something like this that happens, unfortunately, right here in Kansas City.
And I think there's always a focus on safety, right? But I think it's going to be even more so moving forward.
Well, and you could probably only do so much, right? Over 800 police officers, seen and unseen, right? They're not always in uniform. Yet still, it's 500,000 people to police, and you can't be on top of everybody at all times. However, I mean, seeing the videos out there and how quickly at least one of those suspects was allegedly apprehended was heartening to see. Good to see.
You know, Mick, one of the things we always talk about as journalists, we want to report the news. We're not the news.
Yeah.
Today, you're in the middle of it.
Sure. Yeah.
What's the first conversations you get to have once you're in a safe space?
Right. And my whole family was there, right? All different parts of the route. A couple of them in the Western Auto building. I believe my son and his girlfriend had already left. They were driving home, and so it was a joyous day. We had been texting each other on the family thread all day long about our views of everything, and I was bragging like I was right there, right?
Yeah.
And my one son at college sent a view of class. He's like, I'm the one that doesn't get to be there, and he sent a sad face. And I was like, well, at least you're in class. So joyous day for us, right? The entire family down there. And my wife and daughter had a volleyball event, and I think it's going on right now, that they had to get out of Western Auto and walk to, and they were leery to do so. And so they were stuck inside Western Auto building for a while they were clearing things up on Grand. And so they're safe and they're sound, and we'll get together and hug tonight. But yeah, it's a surreal event for not just my family, not just us, but I mean, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who were down there today.
And no doubt you saw plenty of families probably hugging each other, just grateful that they were safe. I know that you saw plenty of strollers and chairs just left behind.
Everything left behind, right? I was checking earlier. I got a backpack somewhere down there, which is fine. We can leave it to some coats and all that stuff. But people just leaving their belongings behind, just getting out of there, scared, because I mean, it's gunshots, and for a lot of people, it's, you know, you don't hear that often. And maybe for a lot of people, it's the first time hearing it, and you don't know what to do. You want to run. And so it was a really, really scary scene down there for a lot of people.
Shows the urgency of the situation.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thanks for that, Mick.
So we heard from multiple people who were at today's parade. Let's listen in.
I haven't taken a breath whatsoever. I'm just trying to make sure that, you know, people are safe and going to where they need to be and everything. And I'll cry it out. I'll do what I need to once I reach my husband and my family, my loved ones. So.
It was a loud sound. Like, we definitely heard the shot, but we weren't really sure. Like, it wasn't instantly like, oh, that was a gunshot. Like, it took a second to react.
Yeah, and it definitely sounded kind of like a firework at first, because I was thinking, you know, maybe they were celebrating after everybody went off for the rally, but after the police came and immediately, like, guarded all of us. So that's when we kind of realized it was a more serious event, and we all just kind of ducked down by the fence while everybody kind of just protected everybody standing by that fence.
There were tons of, like, police officers and troopers and stuff surrounding us right away when it happened.
It was definitely a scary moment. I wasn't expecting something like that for the Chiefs rally, but the police did a good job at making everybody feel safe and comfortable, and like they were protected, so I wasn't as scared as I felt like I would be. So I really appreciate that from them.
Well, we just heard a bunch of, pop, pop, and people started running and scattering, and people, crouching down low, and people saying, move, back off, and everyone started running, east, and the lady next to me, she has some blood on her calf, so she got grazed. They had a guy behind us drop down to the ground. He pulled a gun out. We don't know exactly what's going on with that, just a lot of commotion, not sure what's going on and where to go, what to do. They say run, but it's like, where do you run?
It was energetic. The crowd was like live. Everybody was having a great time. And then kind of out of nowhere, we just kind of saw a little bit of confusion or chaos going on in the front. We had a vantage point. And all of a sudden, it was like a scramble of the crowd. We really didn't even hear any like shots or anything like that because it was loud. We just saw the crowd and the commotion, and it was like a little mini stampede or something like that.
First thing I saw was Casey Mo's Finest jump the barricades, and they were telling everybody to move, move, move. And they went inside the building, and probably 1 to 2 minutes later, everyone started running out of the building, and you could hear people yelling, active shooter, active shooter. At that point, we were picking up confetti on the other side because I kind of followed the police over the edge and picked up confetti with another guy, and they told us to hit the ground, and that was pretty much it. Didn't really hear any gunshots. I was on the east entrance, so, but there were plenty of people running out of the building.
We heard I call it a spread. I don't know what kind of gun it is, but it was like a prrr, like that. And all of a sudden, the girl next to me, where my daughter was standing with her husband, was shot in the mouth. Our children witnessed it. She was on the ground, bleeding from her mouth, all over her shoulder. And we knew then it was going to be serious. And people just, like, when the crowd shifted and started running, all we could think about was protecting our children because they were going to get trampled on while we were trying to stay safe. I'm never bringing my kids to another place like this again. They ruined it for us because this is the second time we've came to something big event like this and there was a shooting. So it's just not safe anymore wherever you go at all. I mean, there's too many people, too many children for them to just spreading guns like that. You know what I mean? Go to find God because you're putting everyone's life in jeopardy, including your own, by doing something so stupid and so selfish. It's just, you don't think about other people. You're not thinking about other people at all.
Oh. We were down over really close to the situation. We saw people starting to jump over the gates, and then they were telling us to run, but then they said active shooter, and then so we just dropped down to the ground. My daughter tried to climb on top of me to protect me, and I tried to just hold her so nothing would happen to her. It is very scary. I mean, this is our second situation. I don't know, a while back, about
Highlands Elementary.
8 years ago, we were at work at Highlands Elementary where there was an active shooter across the street, and we had to race all the kids to the gym and, wait for the parents to come and get them. So being with my daughter, making sure she's safe is my #1 priority, and coming down here to celebrate and then on such a sad note. It's devastating.
It's heartbreaking really to hear folks who went out there to celebrate now recounting the horror at realizing there was a shooting and not knowing if their family was there and just having reaction as they see people bleeding and running for just help and medical attention.
Just a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos. We saw people running in, running out, and just families separated. It's a lot.
Elise Schoenig is there for us live near the parade route there. And Elise, it just feels so stark of a contrast to how we saw you this morning even.
Yeah, Dia, it's honestly, that feels like another universe. I don't even really feel like I remember the events this morning with the Super Bowl parade and all the excitement of welcoming back our hometown team, our world champions, and then to be here and to be looking to my left and even behind me, seeing that, these were streets that were lined with so many fans, and now it's all I can see, all I can think about when I'm looking at this is just the running and the screams and just all of the fear. With these two roads we're standing on, this intersection, it is Pershing and Grand, and so both roads have officially opened back up just moments before our live shot. Law enforcement actually was, allowing people to drive through. You can see that he's taking down that road closed ahead sign, removing the yellow tape. There is still some sort of detour ahead, so it does look like, of course, Union Station is still blocked off, but as far as getting through this intersection, people are able to do that, you know, on both sides. And I think just again to touch on just the difference in everything that you were talking about, Dia, and just the contrast. And I think you also said something earlier about how, you know, we're in this industry, we're not the news, we cover the news, but today we were in the middle of it. I remember being up on the set stage that KSHB had in order to cover and to watch our players on stage. And when we heard the chaos, we saw all of the people you just heard from, everything they were saying. We saw all of that happening in real time from a raised up view, right? We saw people running, we saw people hugging loved ones. I dropped to the ground with some of my other coworkers, and we were even holding on to each other. I called my mom immediately when we were leaving, and it just felt like pure, you know, just fear. And it really is, it's hard to remember, like you said, that this is changed so drastically today from how it started to how it is now. And so, again, and Gian just said this earlier, just holding your loved ones close tonight, praying for those whose lives will forever, ever be altered by this day. And just Kansas City just holding each other closer than ever before is all we can do now as we try to think about even what tomorrow will bring for us.
Thank you for that, Elise, reporting live for us there near Pershing and Grand.
We want to get to Mackenzie Nelson, who was also there covering the parade. And Mackenzie, a lot of our crews there, including yourself, were talking with players. We were celebrating with them and fans. And then this.
Yeah, I mean, we were celebrating one moment. We were swag surfing with the Chiefs and the crowd. They were excited. And then the next, everybody was running in all different directions, trying to figure out where the safest spot was going to be. You know, I wanted to mention, I've been scrolling social media as we've been live on the air. And after reporting the number of victims involved in today's shooting downtown at Union Station, players like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, they have been posting on social media asking to get in touch with these families because they would love to help them out and check on them, whether that's going to the hospital when they're available or, you know, sending them their love and some Chiefs things to brighten their day. Because again, these fans were all out there to celebrate the Chiefs and their Super Bowl win and ended up in harm's way, some of them. And so just a devastating day. And, you know, if you scroll through social media, you're seeing a lot of players, you know, giving their thoughts, their prayers and statements about today. But definitely looking through all of these, the majority of them would love to do something for these families. So if you are on social media, if your families have been impacted by today's events, definitely reach out, send them a message. You can also reach out to us here at KSHB, and we can put you in contact with them as well. But I wanted to share that because despite everything that's happened today, you know, we were there celebrating this Chiefs team, and they are still wanting to do what they can to support the fans that support them so much, guys.
Thank you so much for that, Mackenzie.
We want to get now to one of our other crews who is standing by. See Megan Abundis there right now. She has been at University Health for hours now. And Megan, get us up to speed.
Hi guys, yeah, University Health just came out and spoke with us, and they said this was an incredibly tough day for their staff, for everyone involved. They're helping treat 8 people with gunshot wounds, and of those 8, they said 2 are in bad shape. They wouldn't say their ages. This is a much different scene than what it was a few hours ago. There were hordes of people, I'm talking 50 people, who came from the parade in their Chiefs gear, trying to get in the emergency room to find their loved ones. There were so many people who were injured and shot brought to this hospital because it was so close. We are just minutes from the parade route. The University Health said they had staff working the Super Bowl parade in the medical tent, and they were the first ones to help treat people who were shot. And they explained how well prepared they were for this event.
As a level 1 trauma center, we train for this kind of thing. We obviously hope that it never happens, but we were actually very well prepared. We had enough notice that we were going to get some patients. We didn't know exactly how many. Fortunately, being during the day, we had a lot of professionals, a lot of physicians on here present.
We know they called in additional people to help. It's important to note that they told us that this was very traumatic for staff, for everyone involved. For us, it was also hard to watch as so many ambulances were coming in. I mean, there were people in their scrubs and surgical gowns just waiting to receive them, waiting to help, just bone-chilling, waiting for the sheer number of ambulances, blazing lights and sirens to come in to this area, and seeing them offloaded, it's just not something you ever want to see. Just all of their family members searching for answers, and I truly am thinking about each and every single one of them who is getting help, and this staff just really went into action, and they really feel for all these victims as well. In Kansas City, Megan Abundis, KSHB 41 News.
Megan, thank you for that live report. We want to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The world is changing. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. We may not always have the answers, but we're listening and sharing the voices who do.
This is not Kansas City. Everyone started running out of the building, and you could hear people yelling, active shooter, active shooter.
All of a sudden, it was like a scramble of the crowd.
We definitely heard the shot. The girl next to me, where my daughter was standing with her husband, was shot.
I was there with my wife. I was there with my mother. We never would have thought we'd be forced to run for our safety today.
I'll cry it out. I'll do what I need to once I reach my husband and my family, my loved ones.
The lady next to me, she has some blood on her.
Probably the worst feeling I've ever felt. And I tried to just hold her so nothing would happen to her.
Continue to follow breaking news for you tonight. After one person is killed, nearly 24 are hurt after shots were fired near the parking garage at Union Station. This all happened just minutes after the Chiefs Kingdom Champions Parade rally wrapped up. Hundreds of thousands of Chiefs fans were still gathered in the area and quickly started running for cover, jumping over those barricades like you see on the screen and ducking for safety.
And if you're just tuning in, let's get you up to speed. Right now, we know one person was killed. Police saying at least 22 gunshot victims. That includes some children. We know patients were taken to Children's Mercy and University Health. 3 people were detained for questioning.
When shots were fired, we saw dozens of police officers rushing into Union Station. That's where the Chiefs were and where many ran for safety. We're told everyone on the team is safe. Police asked fans to exit as quickly and as safely as possible.
The White House has called and offered federal assistance in the investigation. Police are asking for witnesses to go to the corner of Pershing and Main. We've spent the afternoon talking with people who were there when shots were fired.
And at first we thought it was fireworks, and then we began to see people move and running around. Yeah. And one of the shooters were like literally behind us in a tan jacket, and one of the Rangers had his guns drawn, and he was running out. And then a guy had pointed towards my direction, but he was behind me. The shooter was behind me, and when the Ranger saw that, the guy took off, boom, right into the crowd in front of us, and then everyone being able, started panicking and stuff like that. But we got right out just in time.
We've had crews at the parade site as early as 3 and 4 o'clock this morning. We've been on the air since 4:30 a.m. and one of those people was Charlie Keegan.
I spoke to Khalees Wright, who brought a camera like this one to the Super Bowl rally outside of Union Station behind me, thinking that she would document lots of wonderful, happy memories. Instead, that camera documented what turned out to be a terrible day.
Let me hold it.
In the first video we want to show you from Khalees, you can see she's looking at a Super Bowl ring when all of a sudden you can hear gunshots in the background.
Shooter, a shooter, a shooter, a shooter, a shooter. They're shooting?
Then the next video shows Khalees and her family inside a room, inside Union Station, where they're trying to find a safe place. They barricaded themselves inside until the police came. You see Khalees' brother climbing up alongside a wall to make sure the coast really is clear.
It was kind of scary, so I didn't know if I was supposed to record or make sure my family's okay. So there's times where I didn't record and I felt bad, should I be recording right now to document all this? So I tried to document everything that I could.
Once the family got out of Union Station and was completely safe, they told me that they were remaining optimistic. Khalees' mom told me she doesn't think this one incident is a true representation of Kansas City. She believes there's more good than bad. Charlie Keegan, KSHB 41 News.
Thank you, Charlie. Let's now get over to senior investigative reporter Jessica McMaster. She's been getting updates from police. And Jess, what are you hearing?
Police Chief Stacey tells us that while she was not expecting this violence out here today, that they were prepared for that. And I do want to walk you through a little bit of how that day went. When they heard something, that's the word they used. They heard something. They started running towards what that something was. And that's where they found 22 victims and immediately began rendering aid. They tell us that 8 of the most seriously hurt were transported within 10 minutes to area hospitals. Everybody wants to know what motivated these 2 suspects to do this, what was going on, what led up to this shooting. Those are questions that the chief can't answer right now. We did ask her, given the amount of harm that was caused in just a short period of time, how her officers were able to bring the 2 suspects into custody. She says she's still working on piecing together those details, but that a couple of her officers were minorly hurt in this situation. This is the first time that we're hearing that members of the Kansas City Police Department were also hurt. Again, those were minor injuries. And, you know, one of the things that they talked about was that they have a 3rd person in custody. It's not clear if that's a suspect. They say this person was part of a video and that this person could have played a role in helping detain one of those suspects. I'm going to let you listen to some of that right now.
I do want to comment on the question that I got earlier about a video of some fans tackling someone. We do have 3 persons detained and under investigation for today's incident. We are working to determine if one of the 3 are the one that was in that video where fans assisted police.
Mayor Lucas also spoke with us, saying that he and his wife were among the crowd of people who were running for their lives. One of the reasons that they don't have all of the information that we would like to share with you right now is because they're waiting to hear from some of the victims who they haven't been able to contact yet because they're obviously still being treated. We are live in Kansas City tonight. I'm Jessica McMaster, KSHB 41 News.
You know, that's going to be key right there, hearing from these witnesses who saw what happened and were injured as a result.
We are awaiting a press conference. We just got notification that Children's Mercy will be giving us an update at 6:30. No doubt we will bring that to you live. But right now, we're going to have Caroline Hogan bring us an update as well.
I'm Caroline Hogan, outside of Children's Mercy. We just learned that there are 12 patients in their care, 11 are children, 9 have gunshot wounds. All afternoon we've been talking with folks walking up and down this hill, hearing about their experience, what they saw during the parade and what they saw during the incident. Some people say, not in my city. This is not how Kansas City is. We spoke with one woman who said she has a family member in Children's Mercy right now with a broken leg.
We were celebrating and then we just had something tragic happen, so it definitely has affected not just our family but everyone. So
we haven't seen anyone come out of Children's Mercy or any ambulances go in the past hour or 2, but we will continue to keep you updated as we learn more. Reporting in Kansas City, Caroline Hogan, KSHB 41 News.
Caroline, thanks for that.
We want to get over to Caitlin and Kevin again. They were there when all of this happened. And Caitlin and Kevin, I know you all have had just a little bit of time to process, but what's going through your mind right now?
You know, we were talking earlier before that press conference started where Megan is, and one thing that really stood out to me, Cameron and Dia, is when Mayor Quentin Lucas said he had to run. He had to run and take cover. We saw several people run. They ran toward Main Street, and we were still trying to process what happened. This is about 15 minutes after the celebration ended, and we were still on that high, that euphoric high. We still were processing and wondering exactly what was happening. It wasn't until we saw just several dozen people run out of the front doors of Union Station right toward us, exactly, and we saw officers with their guns drawn going inside. You know, about an hour ago I ran into one of my friends who was in the same area perimeter we were in. He was amongst that crowd that was running from Union Station, and he says, hey, we're still dealing with this active shooter situation. You guys need to leave. Get out, get out, get out, which was the hurry and the panic that we kind of sensed, and because of that we knew something was off, and that's when we took cover. And shortly after we heard an additional gunshot. There were some gunshots before then, but we didn't hear all of them necessarily because we had those headsets on that kind of were sound mufflers. But shortly after, as we took cover, we heard the gunshots and we saw several officers with their guns drawn and several people running in a panic. And you know, we've been saying this pretty much all night. We never want to be a part of the news. We just want to tell it. But for that moment, that brief moment, we were a part of it, and we had a moment of fear.
Yeah, I'm
Truly, it was terrifying. Scariest thing I've ever been through in my career. But please understand, when we share these things, we know it's not about us. We're just giving you that perspective, because I think until you're there in that moment, you don't understand how chaotic it is. And you think, okay, if there's danger, I'll run away from it. But in this situation, you didn't know where it was coming from. You didn't know where the shots were fired. And you see people running one way and then another. And so, again, just sharing that perspective of what others in that crowd were likely feeling at the time. I have to tell you, so we're at the World War I Memorial. We've moved several times to get away from that active crime scene. And so Union Station is behind us. It is so eerie looking out over the debris and not a soul out there. Right outside Union Station, there are still some police officers working that crime scene, but otherwise this is an area that would be packed, and then behind it you see all the buildings lit up, the celebratory lighting for the Chiefs, and it is so odd and surreal that a day that started out so celebratory and was such a wonderful day, and that now, instead of talking about those funny moments on the parade route and Drew Tranquil and, cheesing for the camera, that instead we're talking about people who lost their lives today.
It is so saddening. It is so disheartening to know that so many children across our viewing area, they celebrated, along with us, this Chiefs Kingdom Championship, and they were elated, many of them, that they had the day off from school, only for some of them to be placed in harm's way, and some of them at the hospital right now recovering.
And speaking of children, as a mom passing this along, we did a series on how kids today are growing up in a world of active shooters, and I consulted a psychiatrist from Children's Mercy, and so I'm passing this along because it resonated with me even way back then, that when bad things happen, be honest to your kids, ask them, what are you feeling, what did you see, do you have questions, and be honest with them. I cannot guarantee that you will always be safe, but tell them that you will do everything in your power to keep them safe. I just had that conversation with my own 8- and 10-year-old at home, and their dad had to explain to them what happened tonight.
So as we process exactly what happened tonight, we want to share our recollection of some of the images we saw, and some of the images that are still off in the distance behind us at Union Station. For example, several strollers have been left behind. There are probably purses. We know there are cell phones that are left behind, strewn across the lawn, not because people were careless or reckless, but because they were trying to rush to safety. And because they were trying to rush to safety, some of their belongings are now part of a crime scene. There are belongings that belong to us here at KSHB 41 that's still back there. We may not be able to get to it tonight or tomorrow even. And, while safety is no doubt top of mind, that just lets you know a bit about the urgency when folks tried to clear this scene to try and rush to safety, because no one knew what was going to happen. And after you heard those gunshots, fear just erupted.
Yeah, to those of you who are hurting, who are scared, who are here, we get it. We're thinking of you. And to those of you, the viewers who have reached out, we have had some amazing messages, just very kind. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So, we encourage you all as we try to process ourselves, as we try to figure out exactly what happened, as we try to bring you the most comprehensive coverage. We try to urge you guys to just hug somebody.
Yeah.
Hug somebody. That's what we've been doing pretty much all night. This is not what we are as a city. And it is very unfortunate what we had to go through after the highest of highs, now the lowest of lows here in Kansas City.
Well, hopefully we just keep being Kansas City kind, and we rally around one another in the days and weeks to come. But to our crew back in the station, thanks for holding everything down. To the people in the control room who have been on since early this morning and have not left their positions. A lot of people working around the clock to bring you this coverage at home. So thanks to the crew back at the station.
All right. That's the latest from here. We are still working the phones, working our contacts to try and gather more details. And once we learn more, we'll be sure to bring that to you. But again, this is a very fluid scene. There's still several squad cars behind us, several officers just surveying that area, and several crime scene tape just around this area here at Union Station, which is supposed to be the epicenter of all things celebratory here. Unfortunately, it is the epicenter of tragedy. And that is the latest from here. We're going to send things back to you guys in the studio.
I think what Caitlin was mentioning about speaking with a child psychiatrist and that advice, it's going to be useful for a lot of parents tonight as they navigate a very tough conversation.
This is an experience that I think everyone in this city will remember, and thank you to Kevin and Caitlin. Have not missed a beat. I'm worried about when they could get back on the air, when they could get back and bring context and depth and important, updates to you all as it was happening.
And they were right there ducking for cover because they had no idea where these shots were coming from.
You think about the players who have spent an entire NFL season trying to bring a Lombardi trophy back to this community and celebrating. We had a great time at an incredible parade, and now we're seeing messages from them like this. Can we get those on the screen, everybody? First, we have a statement from the Royals. They say, our hearts ache from the senseless violence that took place at the parade. We stand with our city and send our full support to victims, their families, and first responders, ending with Kansas City, we love you.
We've also been hearing from players as well, like Trey Smith. My thoughts and prayers are with everyone affected by today's incidents. A huge thank you to the first responders who ran towards the sound of danger. Yes, a big thank you there. You're the ones who should be celebrated today.
We also have a statement from Drew Tranquil, one of the first to go to social media, saying, please join me in prayer for all the victims in this heinous act. Pray that doctors and first responders would have steady hands. And he just goes on to say much more.
Patrick Mahomes saying, praying for Kansas City. We have seen a lot of players say that. Prayers for Kansas City. We absolutely need them tonight.
We've also heard from, I know Mackenzie mentioned this, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, saying that he wanted to get in touch with the victims and provide some comfort and some hope and some relief to them. The statement from the Chiefs reads, we're truly saddened by the senseless act of violence that occurred outside Union Station at the conclusion of today's parade and rally. It goes on to say a little bit more. We're going to wait for that graphic to turn over, that their hearts go out to the victims, their families, and all of Kansas City.
Just a lot to take in.
Not the statement that they anticipated sending out today.
Absolutely not. I mean, today, we keep talking about this, a day of celebration. A lot of our crews were out there. They're celebrating with players, with fans. I mean, this was just a shared experience with our community. And now we're having to share another experience.
Elise Schoening is still out there for us live, and on a very long day, Elise, still quiet there.
Yeah, Dia, you know, again, we talk about this, how it's hard to believe that there was a Super Bowl parade here this morning, given everything that has happened. And if you didn't know what had happened, and if you were looking out where I am right now, it'd almost be hard to believe that anything had happened. I know Caitlin was touching on, I like how she said this idea of Kansas City kind, right? And that's who Kansas City is. What happened today is not who Kansas City is. As I'm listening to Caitlin saying that, I look at multiple members of my team who walked out here to bring us food and water because they know we've been camped out here, all day. There were some random strangers who approached us today, giving us food, water, offering just encouragement, hugs, support. That is what Kansas City is, guys. What happened this afternoon is not what Kansas City is, but those random acts of kindness, that is what Kansas City is. Again, just giving you guys another kind of look of where we're at now here on Grand and Pershing. Roads are open over here. Traffic is going just as it would any other day. If it weren't for the gates that were on the parade off to the side and some of the lingering, trash in the street, you honestly wouldn't know anything had happened here today at all. If you keep going to the left, though, you will see that still, of course, Union Station is blocked off. I know we have members of our crew over there. I think Kevin touched on this too. I think in thinking about, we had gear, we had equipment. Someone drove by us and saying, hey, if you have any gear left over, you can go grab it now. And that was just like the last, thing in our brains. We forgot that we were even covering such a celebratory event because of everything that's happened since then. The way it feels out here, I can't think of a better word other than somber. I know we've been using that one a lot tonight, but just really, truly, makes me just so grateful. It makes me want to count my blessings, makes me want to pray for the families whose lives will forever, ever, ever be affected by this. And just, it makes me want to wrap my arms tighter around Kansas City, and I hope that's what Kansas City is doing with itself tonight. I'll go ahead and send things back to you guys for now.
Elise, thank you so much for that.
We're going to hear more from Police Chief Stacey Graves and Mayor Quinton Lucas. This was a previous press conference that we aired here live, but if you missed it, we want to share that with you now.
All right, we are here to give another update. Again, I'm Mayor Quinton Lucas. I am joined by Kansas City Police Chief Stacey Graves, the Kansas City Fire Chief Ross Grundison. One thing that we want to note at the outset, the situation continues to have updates. Things will continue to change throughout the night. It's why we are here to give you an update right now. The chief, both chiefs, will be giving more information both on the numbers of victims, the status of victims. The chief of police will give more updates on the investigation. A few things to note that we talked about earlier. In terms of who was in danger, what existed, it is my view, as someone who did have to run at the sound of shooting, that there were a number of people who were, in the very least, caught up in the incident in some way. Myself, my wife, lots of families, players, chief staff, and others, their spouses, their families, a number of people who were in or near Union Station. So many people have been touched by this incident, and we recognize that. We also pray not only for the victims, including the decedent that was discussed earlier and their family, but also the victims of the shootings right now who we hope are recovering inside our hospitals. We'll continue to give you updated information. At this point, we've talked to our federal partners. We have also talked to the Kansas City Chiefs. We will be talking to the National Football League and others. More so just to hear that all are safe who are with those institutions, and we continue to hope that all of those who are impacted are safe. To the extent you have information about suspects or others, we do encourage you to call the police. However, if for whatever other reasons you have information about the incident, we will be looking to share that through different methods. So if you have information about the incident, suspects and others, please call the police. If you're looking for other information, we'll try to continue to give you regular updates. I'll say this final thing and then we'll come back for questions at the end. Today was tragic for everyone who was part of it. I had the chance to talk to my wife just a moment ago, who said we became part of a statistic of too many Americans, those who have experienced or been part of or connected to a mass shooting. That is something that I hope we all recognize is highly problematic for all of us. I continue to commend our police officers, our firefighters, and others who were there to respond instantly, but we also need to figure out a way to make sure that things like this stop happening in our country. With that, I turn it over to the Chief of Police, Stacey Graves.
Thank you. I just want to echo the mayor's thoughts and his prayers, and also to acknowledge that not only the victims who were actually hit by gunfire, but there are a lot more people who are going to be forever impacted by what happened here today. You know, as people were running, you know, a lot of us law enforcement who were running towards the danger also guided those who were in fear of their lives, and that's something to be said of how impactful today's event truly was. Again, we have confirmed there is one deceased person. Our gunshot wound total has went up to 22, and Chief Grundison will provide a little bit more context to that. Right now, we're still working on a total of number of victims. This is still an active investigation. I do want to comment on the question that I got earlier about a video of some fans tackling someone. We do have 3 persons detained and under investigation for today's incident. We are working to determine if one of the 3 are the one that was in that video where fans assisted police. Our investigators are working with all of the surviving victims to connect them with loved ones. We are also working to identify our deceased victim so we can notify their family as soon as possible. We are also in the process of staffing a centralized phone number. This centralized phone number will be for those who are victims, witnesses, and if anyone has video or any information about what led up to what happened here today. Again, we are continuously receiving information minute by minute, which is part of the delay of us coming down here. But I do want to pass this on to Chief Grundison to give a little bit more context to some of the status of our victims.
Just want to say that all of KCFD's thoughts and prayers are with those families that were affected by this tragedy today. And while we were not expecting it, we were ready and prepared for an event such like this. Our KCFD units, along with our mutual aid partners that were working to assist us at this event, touched a total of 22 gunshot victims. One of those was a fatality. We had 8 what we considered immediately life-threatening patients. We had 7 with life-threatening injuries, and we had 6 that had minor injuries. Of the most serious, the immediately life-threatening injuries, we had 8 of those. Those were all transported and off the scene and route to hospitals within 10 minutes. So we felt the response was certainly adequate and appropriate, and I commend all our staff working there today, along with PD, that did an excellent job under difficult circumstances. We transported 3 different hospitals. We transported Children's Mercy, Truman Medical, and also St. Luke's on the Plaza.
Questions?
Yeah, so
Who are you asking?
Anyone that can answer the question. So we've heard people talk about gunshots that they heard near the west side of Union Station, and then also gunfire and situations that happened near the fountain and the stoplight over there near the intersection of Pershing. Was there two separate scenes? Was there one big scene? Do you know the answer to that question?
That is still an active scene. That is a large ground to cover. As you know, the size of the Union Station. I will tell you we have located that crime scene on the west side of Union Station. As far as in the front of, that is still under investigation. We have crime scene investigators as well as the detectives. We had a lot of our assault squad detectives and our homicide detectives that were actually in uniform today working the assignment. So not only did you have uniformed presence immediately responding to the scene, rendering aid, going towards danger, but you also had detectives that were immediately on the scene that are still there and actively working.
Are you investigating any sort of connection with the earlier shooting of the day at 27th and McKee?
We are, at this time, we don't know if that's connected, but that is something that we are looking at.
Children's Mercy says that they want parents to contact them if they don't know where their children are. Do you know that there may be, like, are there kids there who have a parent?
I can tell you we have detectives at all of the local hospitals that are investigating.
We're going to dump out of that to go to the Children's Mercy press conference now.
And I was head of our Incident Command Center for today's events. I want to start by expressing our sincere sympathy and our heartbreak that we are feeling, as well as you in the community, for the violence that unfolded here today. I want to clarify that we have had 12 patients that we have treated, 11 of which are children with 9 gunshot wounds. None of those patients, all of those patients we expect to have a full recovery, none of which are in critical condition. I want to also thank all of the teams that were on site today. Children's Mercy had specific staff down at the event so that we could proactively prepare for an event such as this. Our staff were able to put their training into good use today, and we are thankful for all of them remaining professional, calm, and coming to the situation with ease and grace.
Question?
9 children shot. What's today been like for them, for their families?
Today has been extremely disheartening as we think about what we need to always be prepared for. With that being said, our staff were ready, and I'm extremely proud of our response. With that, we are also going to have to make sure that we stay in tune to what is the care that's needed after the violence that has been seen, not only for the children we treated, but I would encourage us to think about that for all of the children and families in the community. We, of course, are going to work through that with the specific ones we've treated, and we have had our Office of Wellbeing help our teams through the situations that they've encountered.
11 children. Can you give us an age range for those children?
I can. Our ages were between 6 and 15.
Were there children, because I know you guys put out a notice earlier today saying if any parents were not sure where their children would contact you, were there families that were separated?
We did have families that contacted us, and we went through our reunification plan, which was extremely successful for us today, and all of them have been reunited.
So you did have families you reunited?
We did have families we reunited.
Can you walk us through kind of just the challenges that a mass event like this would put on the resources of the hospital?
Sure. The challenges of a situation like this, of course, you can imagine, but while we're also treating kiddos that weren't at the parade today for other situations, illness, surgery, things like that, some of that needs to be reprioritized, which we did well according to our mass casualty and incident command situation and plan. We had to pause some of the surgeries that we would have done normally if this wouldn't have occurred, and we had to mobilize resources to take care of the families and the patients that presented to our emergency department.
You said 9 of the 12 have gunshot wounds. Can you describe the injuries of the other victims?
They were incidental injuries is all I can say.
In the ages 6 through 15, those were the total patients or the ones that were shot?
The ages of the pediatric patients we treated were 6 to 15.
How were the children that you saw? What was their, I guess, disposition like after going through something?
Fear. The one word I would just use to describe what we saw and how they felt when they came to us was fear.
Of the children who were shot, how many of them suffered serious and critical injuries?
All of them will recover, and I wouldn't say that any of them are critical at this point.
Had they been at any point when they arrived at the hospital in a state like that?
We quickly stabilized them, so I would say no, not in that necessary capacity.
What's it been like for your staff today, having to deal with this? Kids going to parade, seeing their favorite player, their favorite team, and having to deal with gunfire and violence.
You know, I think that it's something that unfortunately we all have to prepare for. While I said this earlier, the staff did an amazing job, but we will have to do some wellness initiatives and recovery with our staff. This is nothing that you ever want to have happen, and you especially don't want it to happen in a situation where it is a mass casualty type of situation. You don't know how many you're going to get, what the response is going to be from trying to reunite people who might have gotten separated. And so while our staff all went into action, they have a lot of questions and need some help too. I do appreciate the outpouring of support that we've had from all of you and from the community to ask about our staff and to check in on what you can do to help us. That will be important. And I think it's important that we remember all healthcare staff in the community right now, as well as law enforcement and everybody else that responded to an extremely unfortunate circumstance today. And while they all may be trained to do it, it doesn't make it easier for them in the moment.
How long do you anticipate the children will be here? When do you think that all of the children will be up here?
I don't know that yet.
Are Chiefs players consoling some of these children? We know that they were consoling some children today with these kids.
I can't specifically speak to that and which ones that they talk to or not. Of course, our goal is to bring them and stabilize them, make sure they're getting the care they need, and I'm sure we'll hear stories after that.
All right, you guys.
Thank you guys for your time.
I will tell you that the Chiefs have been.
I think we just got the first sigh of a little relief.
Right.
Children's Mercy Hospital telling us that they took 12 victims, 11 of them children, ranging in age from 6 to 15. All 9 kids with gunshot wounds are expected to make not only a recovery, a full recovery.
That was a big sigh of relief here in our newsroom, and I'm sure across the community. I mean, such a traumatic day, but we got some good news there. All of the children who were shot expected to fully recover.
You know, they gave an update there as well, talking about their team and their staff, right? And what a tough day it is when you have an emergency like that and all of those kids coming in, but that they train for this. And this is something that you cannot deny the impact of that and just what world-class medical professionals and first responders we have in this city and in this community, that all 9 of those kids are going to make a full recovery.
They're absolutely incredible. They're heroes. We can't say that enough, the healthcare professionals. And now I think the conversation turns to, she mentioned it a little bit, the Children's Mercy official. How do we navigate the trauma these kids endured?
And of course, we're going to go to a statement we just got in from Mayor Quentin Lucas not too long ago. He says he's heartbroken for our community. As thousands gathered under bright skies today, the horrific acts of a few brought tragedy to us all. While many of us ran for safety, law enforcement and first responders ran toward danger to protect all of us. I am grateful for their courage and service to the people of Kansas City. This is difficult for our community. We'll continue to work hard to ensure assailants are brought to justice. Our victims receive exceptional care. All families impacted receive our support, and that we as a city and country do all we can to prevent tragedies like this from ever occurring again. That from Mayor Q. We're going to go out now to Leslie Delaspore.
That's right. And Leslie, where are you and what are you hearing?
That's right, Cameron and Dia. Well, right now I'm on Grand and Pershing, and as we've said all day, it's been a very tough day here in Kansas City today. But I want to show you Grand and Pershing right now. As I step out, I'm going to pan to my right because, as you can see, Grand is starting to open up, and there's a little sense of normalcy coming back to this road. But as we look around, we see gates and debris that sit as a reminder of what happened here today and what's left of a tragedy. Now, earlier in this very spot, as people were scattered trying to reunite with loved ones, getting to safety, I met a mom. a mom who lost her child for an hour. And as she was looking for her son, her partner Carly, who is legally blind, was also looking for their son Jaden. The family telling me that they plan to hug each other tighter tonight because that 1 hour without each other was something they never want to experience again.
Thank God there's somebody that helped me get to safety with my vision. I am legally blind, but a young man helped me. And then out of nowhere, Jaden popped up, asked me where I've been. Before I knew what was going on, I had him. I approached him and I'm like, don't you ever scare me like that again. I used this one gentleman, he was like, hey, shots fired. I'm like, I am legally blind. Can you please just help me get to safety? He took me by my arm and he just took charge. And I'm extremely grateful for him. If he's watching, thank you.
And when we talked to that family earlier, that family was very emotional, as you can imagine, just being in that scene here in this very spot earlier today. But again, they told me as they were walking away from my interview earlier this afternoon that they are simply just grateful to be alive and with one another. In Kansas City, Leslie Delasport, KSHB 41 News.
Leslie, thank you for that live report. Let's now get back to senior investigative reporter Jessica McMaster. She was at the KCPD press conference, then went over to Children's Mercy for that press conference. And Jess, I know a sigh of relief from all of us knowing that all of the kids who were shot are going to fully recover.
There was definitely a sigh of relief when the spokeswoman here at Children's Mercy said that they are all of the children within this hospital right now who were shot are expected to make a full recovery. But we do want to point out they're expected to make a full physical recovery. She did not shy away from saying that there was a lot of trauma seen here today, and these kids are going to need a lot of help from mental health professionals after this. Our children here in Kansas City were shot, ages 6 through 15, she says. She doesn't know when the kids are going to be able to go home, but one of the things we did address that we know so many people have been asking about, Children's Mercy says earlier that they wanted parents to reach out to them if they did not know where their children were. She said some of the kids did come in here without their parents and that they have an intensive reunification process and that it worked beautifully and they were able to reunite those children with their parents. She said if she could use one word to describe how they were all feeling tonight, is that it was fear. Live in Kansas City, I'm Jessica McMaster, KSHB 41 News.
Jessica, thank you so much for that update and for following these press conferences for us, trying to digest and help us break down what's happening and the information that we're receiving.
It's a lot of information and we're trying to bring it to you as soon as we have it. Also recapping though, because we know people are tuning in and out and we want to make sure that you have that information and to also recap that as well. Let's get out to Megan Abundis. She's been at University Health for hours. And Megan, bring us up to speed.
KCPD Police Chief Stacey Graves said 22 people were shot. We know 8 of the victims were here at University Health getting care, being treated at the hospital, but we know many others were also hurt in the stampede. In the rush to get out, they've been brought here too, also getting help. Here's what University Health said.
As a level 1 trauma center, we train for this kind of thing. We obviously hope that it never happens, but we were actually very well prepared. We had enough notice that we were going to get some patients. We didn't know exactly how many. Fortunately, being during the day, we had a lot of professionals, a lot of physicians on here present.
It's still hard to comprehend that this happened at a Super Bowl rally. I'm so incredibly thankful to the first responders, the medical staff on the ground, the fans who stepped in. This is truly hard to comprehend, and as we start to process this, it weighs so heavily on me that so many people's day changed to chaos and heartbreak. I only hope that tomorrow is better. Megan Abundis, KSHB 41 News.
Thanks for that,
Megan. It's just
Megan.
been tough for everyone today, not only the fans who were there, but our own crews who experienced it firsthand. Let's now get back out to Caitlin and Kevin, who were there. They were covering this parade for hours and then heard and saw portions of this aftermath of the shooting.
You know, to Megan's point, Megan, tomorrow will be better, and it'll be better because of your reporting, you keeping the public informed. It'll be better because each and every one of you watching tonight, because we know we as a city were better than this. We know that the vast majority of people who are down here today, they were here for a celebration. They were here for a great time. So yes, tomorrow will be better. It doesn't mean we don't process today. Doesn't mean we don't reflect on today. Doesn't mean we don't work to find solutions to keep our city and our kids and our babies safe.
Absolutely. And again, I know I shared this earlier. I just wanted to share it again. Point of view of a therapist, a child psychologist that we talked to. One of the greatest bits of advice that she gave me when we did a different story, but talking about mass shootings and how to talk to our children. And she did say you don't have to have the answers. When your kids say, why do these things happen? It's okay to say, I don't know. But what I do know is I can teach you what to do should danger ever happen. And I can promise you that I will do everything in my power to keep you safe. And those are things I can guarantee. And so as a mom hearing that was brought me some relief to know I don't have to have the answers and I can be honest with my kids. And so for those of you who are watching, who have little ones, who are struggling, I hope even passing that along helps. Megan, fantastic job. I think Megan has had maybe the toughest assignment of all of us, being outside the hospital and seeing those families going in and out, and the fear and the confusion on their faces. And she's just done a tremendous job sharing those stories sharing them humanely, and it's been difficult, and so our hats off to the crews who have been out there in the thick of things.
As disheartening as today is, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the parents. Some of you may know this already. Just make sure you talk with your kids. Talk with your kids about a plan should something like this take place, whether it be it at their school, which that in and of itself is just earth-shattering and disheartening to say, but you have to have some sort of escape plan to make sure that you're safe.
I hate that we have to even say that, Kevin.
Exactly.
I hate that that's the reality. We saw that today. I loved what you said, though. This is not who Kansas City is. This does not define us. You know what they say, when bad things happen, look for the helpers. That's another bit of advice that in times like this, and you see this in other situations, they tell your kids, look for the helpers, look for the people doing good things, and really try to highlight that. So maybe tell your kids, hey, those police officers and those firefighters and those EMS, they were there, they knew what to do, they ran to help, and that's why some of these injuries you're hearing about where they're expected to pull through, you think, hey, those are our first responders who were there and did their jobs. So again, focus on the helpers.
And so behind us right now, the crown jewel of Kansas City, Union Station. At one point in time, it was, in jeopardy of being torn down, but it is here in all its glory, despite being a crime scene right now, as police process this scene, as we all process exactly what happened and the motives. Our thoughts and prayers are with all the families impacted by this, and those babies that were hurt, those babies that were shot, those babies that are just recovering at the hospital tonight.
Yeah, at this point, all you can do is keep them in your thoughts and your prayers. And again, I hate to say that because it has become cliche at this point, but it's true. That's something we can do right now. And then going forward, who knows what the next steps are. But for right now, keeping them in our thoughts and prayers certainly, I think, is worthwhile. And thanking the first responders for bravely running toward danger while we hid behind a desk. Thanking our crews for putting in overtime hours to bring this information to you at the public, because I know so many of you were watching the parade with us, and we went from finishing the rally, and we were sitting there, you, Mick, and me, and talking about the highlights and celebrating the funny moments, and it changed so quickly, and there was so much confusion. And we know on social media sometimes there are a lot of theories floating about, and so I can guarantee if you want to know what the facts are, that's why you watch local news, because we're not going to tell you theories, we're not going to tell you what's floating around on social media, we're going to tell you what we have confirmed from officials, and so that is your best bet when these things happen.
And it may be some time, it may be hours, it may be days or even weeks until all those facts are uncovered, but we are working to gather the latest. In fact, we have crews right now across the footprint of Kansas City, the aftermath, places impacted like the hospitals along the parade route. Here with Union Station as a backdrop, you and I, we're still working to learn more exactly what happened, what caused such a heinous act. And once we learn more, we'll be sure to let you know.
So when you see those things on social media, again, we're looking into them. Just to be clear, we're investigating those. We're just not going to report it unless we know that it is fact. And I have to say, Kevin and Dia, having two leaders in our newsroom who are so connected to this community, working their phones. Kevin, we knew that one person had died before I think any other media outlets were reporting that because of you and your sources, and I know Dia is the same way. And that's what, when you have journalists who are invested in their community and make those connections, when trouble hits, at least you know the people to reach out to. And so I appreciate you connecting with your sources today, Kevin.
We're just trying to get the latest information to try to keep you all informed, and we'll continue to do so even in the midst of tragedy. That'll do it for now from where we are here with Union Station as the backdrop. We'll send things back to you.
Thank you, Kevin and Caitlin, for that. We are continuing to get more statements from our elected officials here. We do want to bring up the statement from Congressman Emanuel Cleaver if we can. If not, we're going to read it right off of our phones or right here. There it is. As my office continues to get more information about the tragedy in Kansas City, I want to offer my condolences to the families of those killed today and my gratitude to the law enforcement officers and first responders that rushed into the line of fire to prevent an even worse atrocity. Normally, I pray for the families of victims of mass shootings because there's nothing more tragic than having a loved one's life cut short due to gun violence. Tonight, I will certainly do the same for the members of my community, like so many other communities that were impacted by the horrors of firearms.
Charlie Keegan, just one of our reporters, one of our crews that was out there, in the aftermath of this shooting at the conclusion of the Chiefs Super Bowl championship parade. We're going to go to him.
I spoke to Khalees Wright, who brought a camera like this one to the Super Bowl rally outside of Union Station behind me, thinking that she would document lots of wonderful, happy memories. Instead, that camera documented what turned out to be a terrible day. In the first video we want to show you from Khalees, you can see she's looking at a Super Bowl ring when all of a sudden you can hear gunshots in the background.
Shooter, a shooter, a shooter, a shooter, a shooter. They're shooting?
Then the next video shows Khalees and her family inside a room, inside Union Station, where they're trying to find a safe place. They barricaded themselves inside until the police came. You see Khalees' brother climbing up alongside a wall to make sure the coast really is clear.
It was kind of scary, so I didn't know if I was supposed to record or make sure my family was okay. So there's times where I didn't record and I felt bad, should I be recording right now to document all this? So I tried to document everything that I could.
Once the family got out of Union Station and was completely safe, they told me that they were remaining optimistic. Khalees' mom told me she doesn't think this one incident is a true representation of Kansas City. She believes there's more good than bad. Charlie Keegan, KSHB 41 News.
Thanks for that, Charlie. There are already efforts to help and reach out to the victims, including from a member of the Kansas City Chiefs themselves. We have a tweet from Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who is trying to reach out and get in touch with some of the victims and their families. And I need to find the post here. I thought we were going to put it on the screen for you. It says, any chance anyone can help me get in touch with these kids or families? First off, I want to make sure they're doing okay, like a lot of us. But he would love to get them help in any way he can and get them some things from the team to help with the recovery. Just one player, no doubt, likely reaching out to those families across the metro.
And it just speaks to their connection to this community, the relationships they've formed, that in the midst of a celebration for this team, and then we have a tragedy, their first thought goes to helping those who are impacted.
I think we're going to go to another reporter now.
Investigative reporter Jessica McMaster. Jess, you were at the Children's Mercy press conference, and I know the conversation now shifting to about trauma for these kids that they endured.
Absolutely. Even the staff here with what they've been dealing with, I don't think that they've ever seen anything like this here. They had tears in their eyes. You could see the exhaustion on their faces after they've been treating these children all day. The good news is, even though there were 9 people shot that they have treated here, they're all going to be okay. But you're absolutely right, Cam. She says while they're physically going to be okay, there's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done to get these children mentally okay. She says that they were filled with fear as their parents were. Some of these kids were brought in without their parents. They had to reunify them through, I guess, an extensive process that they say worked beautifully. They were able to reunite several families. Another thing that's been going on out here today is one of the staff members tells us that members of the Kansas City Chiefs, those players, have been reaching out throughout the day. She said that they have been incredibly supportive, asking what they can do to help these children after they became stable. It's not clear when the kids will be going home, but they are all expected to be okay. This was our second stop. We spent most of the evening at Kansas City Police Headquarters, where the police chief there talked to us about suspects and things like that. A lot of people are asking, what was the motive? We don't know. As you heard Caitlin mention, there's so many rumors and so much speculation, and it's really out of desperation. People want to know why and how something like this could happen in their city, and we want to know too, and we want to give you that information as soon as possible. But one of the things that the police chief mentioned is that part of piecing that all together is being able to talk to the victims who have all been being treated out here today. So this is going to be a process. It's going to take some days before we know for sure what happened. Cam.
Thank you, Jessica, for that live report. And one of the things Jessica mentioned, it's going to take some time to get the answers, to get the why in all of this. I know people want those answers, and we want those answers too, but it does take time. There's an investigation underway. The police chief saying that it is a safe scene, that they have cleared the scene, meaning it is safe. So let's head out to another reporter, Gian Kim. She's been live for us for many hours now. And Gian, get us up to speed.
Well, Cameron and Dia, usually after a huge event like this, it's a given that there's trash on the ground, and along with it are usually willing volunteers who are eager to help clean up our beautiful city. But you don't expect caution tape blowing in the wind, as you can see behind me there. There's certainly a lot to pick up and put together in the days to come, both literally and emotionally. As I stand here, I can't help but think about not just the shock of today, but the healing that needs to happen for people in days to come. Healing from what they saw, healing from accepting that this was their reality. One scene I keep replaying over and over again in my head. I saw a family of 6 walking towards me, and I think it was the father. He was standing in the middle, and he looked like he had just seen a ghost. He had tears rolling down his face, just complete shock. And the rest of his family were propping him up so that he could walk away from Union Station. And you know, I see something like that, and our heart is with you. You know, we're grieving with you, and I'm just thinking about all of the families and the victims that are impacted by this event. I do want to mention that I did talk to a woman who brought me some comfort. She said Kansas City is resilient, and we will find a way forward, but it can't just be on hope, that it needs action. So just something to think about there. It really resonated with me. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Gian Kim reporting for us live there. And as we get ready to wrap up and take a little bit of a break, we're going to go ahead and bring Kevin and Caitlin back into the frame. You know, our crew who really has led our coverage the entire day and brought so much energy and passion and enthusiasm and really been a voice for this city at the highest of highs, guys, and now the lowest of lows.
Yeah, you all were there for the excitement of the parade, taking cover, and then getting back on the air as soon as possible to explain what you were seeing, what you heard, what you experienced. Just true professionals right there.
Thank you, guys. And it's unfortunate that we have become part of the story. We never sought out for this to happen. We are grieving with you, Kansas City. As Gian just said, you know, we were here celebrating the best moment. It was supposed to be a day no one would ever forget. Unfortunately, it still is a day no one will ever forget, but for all the wrong reasons.
I might have only moved here 4 years ago, but I love this city. I love these people. I love this community. And so we will grieve with you. We will be there for you in the days to come. I just, you know, words kind of escape me. It's been a day, but hopefully we can all heal together going forward. But first and foremost, we were thinking of those families that have been directly impacted
So
tonight.
we're gonna gather ourselves here outside, and we'll see you tonight at 10. But we're gonna send things back to you guys in the studio for final thoughts.
We will be coming on the air. We will cut in if there are any new developments. The city and police tell us there are none that are planned, but just know, Kansas City, we are with you. We are thinking of you, and we're going to fight to bring you answers throughout the day and the days to come. Good night, everybody.
This is not Kansas City.
Everyone started running out of the building, and you could hear people yelling, active shooter, active shooter.
All of a sudden, it was like a scramble of the crowd.
We definitely heard the shot. The girl next to me, where my daughter was standing with her husband, was shot.
I was there with my wife. I was there with my mother. We never would have thought we'd be forced to run for our safety today.
I'll cry it out. I'll do what I need to once I reach my husband and my family, my loved ones.
The lady next to me, she has some blood on her.
Probably the worst feeling I've ever felt.
And I tried to just hold her so nothing would happen to her.